Greetings everybody, today we'll talk about why you should not buy W140. For me, it is the most difficult topic to talk about, because every time I see W140 I feel like this guy with shampoo. And this is me when I saw W140 and I was very focused on reviewing Chinese VW, and that was my reaction.
Нормальненькая такая она.
And this reaction happens to me every time I see W140. If you love old Mercedes and like car reviews with dad jokes, please subscribe to my channel. It will help my journey to purchasing W140. For me, W140 is a dream car, and I love it more than corrupt politician gets real sentence and confiscation of all his assets that were accumulated illegally. I love it more than receiving 3 AM phone call from my ex-girlfriend telling me she's unhappy and regrets her choices. But buying today W140 is a financial commitment that you must fulfill to fully enjoy this magnificent vehicle. First of all, you must remember that some models of W140 are more than 30 years old. So, all the rubber components in your suspension must be changed. Not only suspension, but engine mounts also. And bigger engine you have, the more engine mounts you need to change. Rebuilding suspension is a must, especially in neglected W140s. Replacing all the control arms and wishbones is absolutely necessary in many W140s today. Replacing suspension at the back is even more complicated and more expensive. If you bought W140 with optional high leveling air system, then simply sourcing this new part will be a challenge. And for those who didn't know that W140 had optional rear air suspension, here's the picture. Mercedes also offered this option in CL models. Also, springs must be changed, and each engine has its own thickness of springs. If you put springs on W140 with V8 engine from like straight 6 S320, you will have saggy car. After you fix all the issues under the car and buy new Pirelli tires, only then you will fully enjoy $1 billion comfort. When you choose tires, make sure they can handle 250 km per hour, because usually many owners of W140 buy tires that can only handle 180 km, and then they have horrible blowouts and total their car or just simply die. Engine and transmission will demand cash and attention, just like a drunk girl with daddy issues that you met in a horrible bar. Usually engines are very reliable, but many of them are neglected, so you will have problems with timing chain, fuel injectors, wiring all over the engine. Also, you will have problems with oil consumption, oil leakage, engine management system. Sometimes not all cylinders have the same pressure, they receive not the same amount of fuel or air. Many W140 lovers that want to restore their car say that they are fixing problems that were neglected for 10 or 20 years. For example, every 5-6 years you need to change Bosch fuel sensors and clean or replace the whole fuel system if you bought the car from ex-Soviet Union countries, because the ex-Soviet Union countries have fuel standards of Euro 3. Even today they have Euro 3. And W140 standards from the factory were at least Euro 5. And some say that American fuel wasn't any better, and they also had the problem with the fuel system. It is better to buy a nicer W140 with full service history from Japan. Japan is the only country in the world, in my knowledge, that has many clean and well-kept W140s. I grew up in Japan, and I saw many of them that were loved and just serviced on time. The only problem you might have from Japanese W140s is the rust, but it's not so common. Also, if you cannot afford a fully restored or well-kept W140 from Japan, I recommend simply buying the engines from Japan. They have many wonderful V8s and straight 6 with low mileage that were consuming good petrol, were serviced on time, and they are very affordable today. They were maintained properly, so you will save a ton of cash on them. Engines from Japan will not have the same problems that engines from ex-Soviet Union countries or even America. Transmission is usually solid if it was in good hands and also if it was serviced on time. I saw a few W140s that had factory oil in it for 30 years, and some of them were perfect, and many of them were slipping gears, especially from first to second, or in some cases they were hitting from the first to second or the third with huge bang that was very annoying and very scary. There were cases where simple oil change fixed everything, but in some cases it made it even worse. The car would just not even move. Some true lovers of W140 put additional cooling system with small radiator in front to give its better cooling for the transmission. Some say it helps cooling in hot regions, and transmission really works better and differently when you have additional cooling for transmission. Personally, I don't recommend that because Mercedes spent $1 billion on developing it. I think simple maintenance will be enough. But it's just my opinion, and I'm looking forward to reading your comments about that. Do you think additional cooling for transmission is overkill or a necessity? Also, do not forget about the transmission mounts. They're also made from rubber and must be changed to give you the perfect and smooth feeling of W140. Next, let's talk about the steering rack. It will 100% leak, and you always need to check the steering pump for leaks when you buy W140. Basically, all the pumps will have some kind of leakage in this car, so be prepared to spend money on it. Now let's talk about wonderful interior of W140. This car has the perfect interior from the factory. In my opinion, the original leather and wood is the best option for W140. Many W140 owners change leather and then the special smell of W140 disappears immediately. You don't have this originality in this car. The original German leather from the 90s is the best thing that will ever happen to you when you drive a car. It is very thick and it smells wonderful. It's such a good leather, but when you sit on it, you think that the cow that sacrificed its skin for this car was loved and treasured and had no emotional damage at all. So that's why it has such a perfect skin. If you have such a damaged W140 interior that change is absolutely necessary, try to find seats or the whole part, the whole car part, the interior like door panel or the whole seat from other W140s rather than change the original leather to the new one. Also, one of the biggest problems in the interior, if God forbid you will have the problem with the heating radiator. You need to take all the interior apart. An official Mercedes dealership will take 24 hours to finish this job and they will charge you for each hour gazillion dollars. But if you're lucky enough and you know people, you can find a very handyman in private garage that can handle it in 7-8 hours and much cheaper. In some cases heaters work even today perfectly, but don't forget, this car is more than 30 years old. AC system consumes 1000 ml of Freon, and many of W140s today have only 300, max 400 ml of Freon. So every 5-6 years you need to check that. But when you have fully fixed and fully loaded AC in W140, it will give you the actual snow in the Sahara Desert when you're driving it. Electrical problems in facelift versions are less and not as complicated to fix as pre-facelift versions. And the reason for that is the biodegradable wiring. After the facelift version, W140 didn't have much of this horrible wiring in their cars. Mechanical problems of W140 are sometimes scary, but you can solve them and you can find the parts, and it's possible to make a perfect car. But the worst thing about W140 is the rust. It depends on the region that you bought car from and how many scratches or small accidents this car had. And if you find a good variant from the warm region with less humidity, you can find rust-free W140. And of course you need to polish your car and do other cosmetic procedures to make your car shine again like new from the factory. Now let's talk about the budget and actual cost that will damage my wallet if I buy W140. In my calculations, clean W140 from Japan will cost from $20,000 to $30,000. And with shipping, import tax, customs fee and the basic maintenance, through the year, the price will be from $50,000 to $60,000, depends on the engine and the condition of the car. Another option I have is to buy W140 in Uzbekistan, where I live, for $10,000–$15,000, and after the purchase it will be the biggest gamble of my life. Even with the professional inspection before buying the car, problems will occur when you will buy it and drive it every day. And finding full service history in ex-Soviet Union car is almost impossible. I recommend for my foreign viewers, if you want to buy best used W140, it must be with full service history, preferably from a retired businessman that kept his W140 in good condition and did all the maintenance on time. Or you can buy W140 from Japan. If you will witness miracle and find in good condition W140 from Japan for $10,000–$15,000.
Forget the miracles.
But if you will forget miracles, then it will cost you from $20,000 to $30,000, like I said before. When you buy the car, keep extra $10,000 cash for a rainy day. I made many videos about why W140 is what you need in your depressed and miserable life, but as grown responsible adult, I must make video about the consequences of your happiness. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what do you think about this video. What is your favorite old Mercedes? Please subscribe to my channel. Take care and bye bye.